Welcome to Books and Boulders, your virtual book club for outdoor adventure reads. I'm Melanie.
And I'm Tiffany.
And we are back with another episode. We're talking about climbing free. So last week we wrapped
Doom,
up.
doom. We're ending climbing free.
Yes, we're ending climbing free. Last week we finished, what did we read? Chapter 7 through 9 we were discussing. So this week we're chatting about chapters 10 through 14. Yeah, so
13.
13. Lord, I can't do math. In my mind, like it was like 4 chapters. So then I said 14, but yes, right. 10, 11, 12. Yes. Okay, cool. We're talking about chapters 10 through 13, 4 chapters. So yeah, let's get into it.
And we promise not to take as long as we normally do to get through.
Yeah, we promise we'll do better. We didn't, I guess maybe we could do a quick check-in. I just wanted to, see how you're doing, how your week's been.
Yeah, because these chapters are so long, I'll definitely keep it brief. Mm-hmm. But I will say I am going to Kentucky to climb.
Is that Red River Gorge?
Red River? Yes. I always want to make sure I don't.
I stole your moment.
Because I know, no. Because I honestly, I had to be careful because I was like, I know it's not New River Gorge because that's the area that I shall not return to.
Oh.
But the Red River Gorge, I am going to this weekend for a BIPOC climbing camp event. What? And I'm honestly going as a form of therapy to help me with my trauma, with my fear. I don't even know if I'm going to climb. I am going to try to climb. Luckily, there's guides there that I trust to belay me. So, yeah.
I know some of those guides.
You do. You know them all. And I'm going to get on. Yeah, so I'm getting on real rock. I'm getting outside. I'm getting back on a rope. And these are all things I actually enjoy or kind of should enjoy in theory. But I did find out that the temperature is going to be like 60-degree high and 40-degree lows, which is making me anxious. And it also is a climbing camp, and I'm only into the first half of that. I'm not really into the campsite. So,
yeah. So you're sleeping outside?
I don't know what I'm doing. Honestly, Whoa. I'm just going with the flow. I don't even know what I'm eating, how I'm eating.
Wow.
Let's just say it'll be an interesting story 2 weeks from now when I let y'all know how this went. So that is my update.
That's fun.
I am going to get on the wall. And also, other side update, I think I have pushed back my European climbing. I am deathly afraid of leaving my plants in July. It is literal peak pest season.
Ooh. I saw some aphids on mine and
already?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I cannot.
I know.
I cannot. I'll send you a spray.
Okay.
But I am very it's like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like I am out there fighting in the gutter with
the trenches.
with these bugs. And because the volume of what I've planted has grown significantly, I actually spent all morning planting flowers.
Wow.
Because I want to have a ton. I just want all pollinator. I want some parrots, some wasps to come in who eat aphids. I'm trying to bring all the things that will battle them. Or I want to use those flowers as sacrificial lambs and have the pests go eat them. So I'm trying some strategies because last year was the first real year that I had to really deal with. I had beetles. I always get squash bugs. I get we have spotted lanternflies. They haven't made it that far west yet, so you're fortunate. And I'm hoping they don't make it that far, but I don't know.
Yeah. Wow.
I just have a lot to deal with, and I'm like, if I leave in July, and I bought 2 roses, one of which is dying because I planted it somewhere that's not getting enough sun.
Oh,
and
damn.
The other one is doing, I know. I emailed the people, can I dig it up and put it in a container? Can I dig it up and put it in my front yard? What can I do to save it?
Yeah.
And it's not even about the money, although it should be. I just am really sad because I really wanted these climbing roses. But, I just didn't think it was a good idea to leave my new roses, this whole I think I just have to plan my travels for like late August through September when things have kind of like calmed down a little bit. And that is the plan.
Wow.
So sadly, no France until August.
Wow.
But
Yeah. What you won't do for love. Like these plans really have us
yeah, this is why
at
I don't have a
their beck
pet.
and
This
call.
is this is exactly why I don't have a dog. I would never go anywhere, and I want one, and
Yeah.
I know it will change my whole life. So, or kids,
Uh,
like, kids, dogs, plants, they're all on the same spectrum for me.
yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well,
how
yeah.
are you?
Yeah. I'm, also doing all right. Not gonna lie, I'm kind of struggling today. I feel like
I I appreciate the
the honesty.
candidness. Yes.
Yeah. I feel like I haven't like slept well since last Friday. Like, I don't know. It's been like 6 days since I've gotten like proper quality sleep. I don't know why. Like, I feel like I've slept full nights, but like, I am tired. I'm really drained. But I also am excited to be going on a climbing trip soon. Not this weekend, but next weekend. I will be heading to Red Rocks, Nevada.
Woo! Can we switch trips?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I would love to go be around some BIPOC folks in Kentucky. More importantly, I would love to be around some BIPOC folks because I'm in Albuquerque. And there are BIPOCs here,
Yes.
but I don't know, not as much in the climbing scene. But yeah, I'll be going to Red Rocks. I'm super excited. I've never been to Red Rocks. I've been to Vegas, but never to Red Rocks. Actually, that's not
Oh
true. I
wow.
have been once. But the day that I wanted to climb, it was raining. So as
Which
you
is basically like not going to Red Rocks. So
right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, anyone who may have climbed to Red Rocks probably knows, yeah, you can't really climb on wet sandstone. It's like super detrimental to the rock there. So yeah, hopefully we have good weather so far. I think it's looking pretty good. But yeah, I'm super stoked to be doing that. And then outside of that, just trying to like climb as much as I can. I like sprained my shoulder a little bit, so I want to
oh
climb.
no.
I know. Yeah. I'm trying to take it easy because I don't want to make it worse before my trip. Um, but yeah, that's kind of it. Other than that, life has been lifing and we're just going with it, taking it one day at a time. But I'm happy the weather's
Well,
good. My garden's growing. Yeah.
next episode we gonna have some stories then.
Uh-huh.
So
Woo.
should be interesting.
Yeah, cool. Alrighty. Well, yeah, how about we dive in, shall we?
Let's go.
Cool. So climbing free, chapter 10. Let's see. Chapter 10 was called Into No, that was chapter
Heading
11. Just
east.
kidding. Chapter 10,
Yeah.
heading east. Bear with me, y'all. But yeah, chapter 10, heading east. So Lynn is just talking about a lot of the time that she spent climbing in the gunks. She, in the last chapter, had ended her relationship with John. And so I think she's still recovering emotionally from that. And she goes to Manhattan, I think, to do an interview. But she ends up meeting this guy named Russ Rafa, who's a climber from New York. And I think they do a lot of climbing together. And eventually they kind of fall in love. And they have a whole relationship. A
To
whole,
say the least.
a whole relationship. But yeah, I mean, so while she's out here, she finds herself kind of a part of a new community of climbers. Russ is one of those kind of staples in her community. And let's see, sorry.
And
That was
it was really just a new type of rock. I felt like the whole experience was kind of refreshing for her to like start experiencing new rock, new challenges. It
yeah.
was interesting seeing how they were like, now climb that, now climb that. I want you to, can you
They
do
were trying to
this?
break her.
You know, it was it was like when they finally found something that she struggled on and that she really had to project. It was like, aha, you're
Like,
not
she's
amazing.
human.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it definitely sounds like during this time, it really forced her to develop her technique and mental fortitude. It seems like there's like a big difference between, I think the type of rock she mentioned climbing on was it limestone? You're in New York, you know. No, that was granite.
No. It's like granite quartzite.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So right, she's climbing on granite, which is different from the rock that she's used to climbing on in California. She's pushing herself to do some really bold leads, and while she feels accomplished, I think she starts to get to a point where she wonders how worth it is. One of the things that we kind of talked about is how during one of the interviews after she leads, I don't remember the name of the climb, but she leads a pretty significant
I
climb.
think it's to be or not to be.
Yes, that sounds right. Yeah. So she leads this climb to be or not to be, and it was incredibly challenging. I think her climbing partner maybe had attempted it and got shut down, but she ended up succeeding in it. And Russ, after the fact, was like, I think it's one of the most satisfying things in climbing when you find yourself kind of on the edge. Almost, it sounded like I don't think he necessarily meant it as life and death. But he's talking about when you sort of find yourself on the edge and you're really like kind of giving it all you've got, and there's like a huge chance of failure and the stakes are really high, and how that's kind of like the most satisfying part of climbing. And another one of her friends is like, it's not satisfying to watch somebody risk their life. And they kind of are going back and forth about this. Yeah. But she sort of,
I think it was I wrote his name down because Mark Robinson. That really did stick with me. That whole comment about, is this whole thing really worth it?
Yeah. What do you think?
Oh gosh, no. I mean, I think as we learned over the course of this entire book, the culture of climbing, I feel like, was so rooted in risk taking and pushing things to the limit. Like, and I actually like that. And I think she's in her mid-20s at this point, maybe.
Yeah.
She's just starting to, she's been climbing for a while, and it's like, it's cool to push grades. It's cool to try to push these levels and these routes and have a project. But to witness someone do something where there is a possibility of death or serious injury, I don't enjoy that. Like, I personally don't enjoy that, but I got the feeling of like, I'm not enjoying this anymore. Like, this is not for me.
Right. Yeah. It was interesting to see her like romantic partner kind of like say like, these are the most satisfying moments. Like, that's your whole boo. That's your boo. Like, you like, okay, we're watching her like almost risk her life. So I don't know. I did think that was interesting, but I agree that, there is like certainly I think that like sort of the danger of climbing to some extent kind of generally contributes to the excitement of it. Like, and what am I trying to say? Like, I think that there is like some thrill to be found in like, oh, this is like a little bit risky. Like, this is like, maybe a little bit dangerous. Like, but I think that like to the extent that I can mitigate the danger, like it's enough to be like, oh, I'm exposed right now. Like, woo, and I think that just there are enough inherent risks in climbing that like you kind of are going to get that thrill of like the danger regardless, because it's like, we try our best to be redundant. We try our best to protect ourselves, but like it is an inherently dangerous sport. And so I think there's obviously that acceptance of risk. And I think to some extent that like adds a little bit of like intensity and excitement. But that's enough for me. That's like plenty for me. I don't think I need to seek out additional danger. It feels like playing chicken. Like, I don't think and I think she kind of alludes to that maybe in later chapters, but it's a losing game ultimately. But yeah, I think, Lynn kind of like is having this moment of realizing like, I'm loving climbing in the gunks, but and she's kind of hinted at this in the past, but I think she's just generally very cautious and not wanting to press her luck too much. Another thing that I thought was super interesting in the chapter is we kind of revisit this topic of like hangdogging and some of the climbing
Yeah.
ethics.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, I was looking at that. I think what is this? Vandals. They
yeah.
were hopping on this infamous route in the
Mm-hmm.
Gunks, 513A,
Mm-hmm.
and talking a little bit more about sport climbing, or kind of that style of sport climbing.
Mm-hmm.
And remind us again, so what is hang dogging?
So my understanding of hangdogging is essentially when I don't know if it's necessarily climbing bolt to bolt, but I believe it's when you kind of like slowly work your way up a route and like you will hang at a bolt to like work out the next sort of sequence of moves until you get to the next bolt. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, some people might call it bolt to bolt, but generally speaking, it's when you kind of like pause and take rests on a route to regain your strength and to sort of like try to map out the next sequence. And it kind of contrasts with the more traditional approach to climbing, where you either send it or you come down and you start over from the beginning. There are no like rests in between.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess it became like a big debate between the climbers in the Gunks of
Yeah.
who believe that this was kind of cheating, and if it's not cheating. And I guess she hang dogged on the crux of that Vandals climb.
Mm-hmm.
So she was kind of in the middle of the whole debate, because I feel
Mm-hmm.
like she still wanted to really sort of abide by that pure free climbing style, but she's starting to embrace this sort of new style, and, you know, kind of stuck in the middle and feeling like I can't really fight for either, because
Yeah.
climbing is climbing. Like,
Yeah.
just let people climb. Why it's got to be that deep?
I know.
And
I was literally about to say that. I feel like in her mind, she was like, it's not that deep. Like, I just want to finish this and like actually be able to learn something from it. So I'm going to, yeah, not get shut down every single time. And I admire her and respect her a lot for that, because I think that some of that sort of attitude around climbing, like, how climbing has to like sort of be taken to an extreme in order to be like seen as like respectable or
mhm.
worthwhile. And I think that even this concept of like hang dogging being problematic, like I feel like that's like an extension of this idea that like you have to take things to the extreme, like you have to either finish the entire route or it doesn't count. Like that all feels so like such a masculine sort of mentality, and a masculine, like a more male centric approach to climbing. And so I don't know, I can really appreciate her, because I feel like those kinds of things like start to shift the culture of climbing, and it makes the sport like so much more accessible to people who just don't agree with that. Like, I don't really care if whoever thinks I'm a real climber.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just doing this because like, I enjoy it, and I don't know. I don't feel like I need to prove anything. Um, so yeah.
Do you feel like there's still a debate between traditional climbers and sport climbers, and like what is really real climbing? Because
Hmm.
I feel like I'm gonna represent the sport climbers in this scenario,
Mm-hmm.
because I've done more of that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, truly only that, because I've followed on trad
Mm-hmm.
once or twice, but that's the extent of, I've never placed pieces
Mm-hmm.
intentionally, other than a couple of, you know, class type environments.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, without trying to teleport back in the day,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there is still sort of this thing between sport and trad climbers. While I'm sure there's now more mixing
Mm-hmm.
than before,
Mm-hmm.
whereas in this period of time, I feel like you were a trad climber
Mm-hmm.
in traditional climbing, because that was how it all started before people started putting bolts into walls, that is real pure climbing, and sport climbing is fake and cheating, and y'all aren't, because I know there's even like debates about like pre-placing draws. Like, did you really send it if the draws were already
Right.
up there or not?
Yeah. I don't know that I have a definitive answer to that question, but I want to say certainly, like, I think that there is still like a lot of debate around like kind of the ethics of climbing in general. God, I wish I could remember the debate we were having, but I was talking to my partner about a lot of this some months ago, and he, he has some strong opinions about some of the ethics behind climbing, but I do think
A
that,
lot of people do. A lot of people
yeah,
do. And some are vocal about it, some are not vocal about it. As someone who has developed routes, sport routes, I fully and again, as someone, I'm gonna say this on the record, as someone who does not and never plans on trad climbing, and as someone who has developed routes, and I say this not maybe from the same perspective,
yeah,
but I do not fully think that sport climbing is okay. Not not do I not because I don't think it's like the pure way, but I even feel a little icky desecrating rock like that, or the environment. Like, it isn't natural to put holes in the wall. I don't think climbing at all is natural. No offense. I mean, yes, climbing is natural,
yeah,
but even going out there and popping pitons into the wall and even putting pieces into cracks, like, I don't know that the mountains were meant for people to be climbing them in that way. Like, it's one thing to go up the mountain, but once you start manipulating the wall, it just seems a little
yeah,
gross. I don't know. It just feels weird to me. I'm
yeah,
not gonna. I've developed because it was gonna get developed whether I did it or not. Like,
right,
I mean, like, it's
yeah,
not like I was the one who invented sport climbing or route development.
right,
I was interested in doing it, and I actually do enjoy it, but I can understand the argument only if it's from an environmental perspective, not if it's from a climb hard perspective. I don't
right,
care about that part, because I do think
yeah,
good, safe sport climbs are fun and they're accessible. And the route that I developed definitely feels like a climbing gym, and I don't care
yeah,
because it is safe. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like, if somebody came and argued me and said, "Oh, okay, I get it from that," but if you telling me it's not right because, and I didn't really send it because I didn't place my own gear, then I didn't
yeah,
send it. Cool,
yeah,
cool. In a magical world, but you know who did? Who thinks they sent it? This one.
yeah.
I think I sent it, so I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that to some extent I do feel like I was at a crag maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and there was a guy there who was like, we don't do bolts at this we don't do bolts here, and he said that he like chopped some down recently that somebody tried to put up, and I don't know if it's because I don't know if it's because it's trying to preserve the history of the crag. Like, I didn't really get into it with him. Like, I don't know if it's coming from a place of trying to preserve history or for environmental protection, both of which I find like totally respectable reasons to kind of like avoid drilling into rock. But I do feel like a lot of times these ethics come from like ego driven places of just like, well,
100%.
this isn't what I believe is correct, so therefore nobody can do it this way.
100%.
Yeah.
I don't think it has. I don't think. Here's the thing. If people cared about ethics, these lands would be in the owner's hands.
Yeah.
Like
Totally.
this. Like, if y'all actually cared about, let's be real, if you cared about these crags, these supposed landowners and these people, like, if we really want to get into a real debate about the climbing areas, we should not have the right to be doing anything to these places,
Yeah.
because we don't really own it, but
Yeah.
we live in America and we do. So it is the way it is.
Yeah.
So I don't want to hear nobody say nothing to me. I mean, you can comment and say whatever you want, but I feel how I feel.
Yeah. 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 I think those are facts. I agree with that. There's so much there. There's so much more that we could dig into. But
And then
yeah.
this chapter kind of wraps up with Lynn and the new boo heading to one of my favorite places in the
I was gonna
entire
ask you
world.
about that.
I was like, yeah, get it out of New York. We're getting out of New York. Yeah, so yeah, they're heading to France. And this was
Parlez-vous
June
français?
1986. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, she's getting ready to enter a new chapter in her career. She gets invited to compete in Sport Rakia. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but I don't want to insult the Italians.
No, that's close enough.
Okay. Wait, I thought they were going to France first. I mean, Italy first. You said France.
Well, no, it says that the French Federation of Mountaineering were hosting, and they were 2 of 4 Americans invited on a 2-week trip. They started in Fontainebleau.
I see. Okay.
And then they hit up Les Sassois, Verdun Gorge, and Buh, which we all know is ultimately where Lynn had her big injury. So they did a whole sort of like French tour first.
Right. True.
And this was her first foray in. Yeah. This was her first foray into limestone too.
I see.
So I feel like she's now sort of completing her, tour of the different types of rock, going from the West Coast to the East Coast. Actually, she spent time in Colorado, I thought too.
She's all over the place. I can't keep up, Lynn.
And then maybe I thought they did. I thought they went to Colorado for a little bit, but I could be wrong. And then they went now to Europe.
Right. Okay. And then while she's out there, she gets invited to start competing in climbing competitions. She gets invited to join the second competition hosted by, I guess, the first international rock climbing competition. So it's the first international rock climbing competition. This is their second competition. It's held in Italy. And so this
Sport
kind of
Russia?
Well, I don't know. Someone help us out.
Yeah, y'all can fix it.
Yeah.
But somewhere near Milan.
Yes.
they're near Milan.
So yeah, she is heading to Italy, and we're gonna head into chapter 11.
Yeah, that basically takes them into chapter 11, and it kind of teases up this very, very famous French climber that will end up being, I think, one of her big competition folks, and that is Catherine Destiville. I don't know.
Do you speak French?
But I'm trying to learn right now, low key.
Cute.
I have a book from the library
Nice.
that I might actually end up buying. I'm thinking about buying. But all I know how to say is "Je suis Tiffany."
Je suis Tiffany.
Yeah, which is like just I'm Tiffany. My name is Tiffany. It's not really anything that dynamic. But
what's je suis versus je m'appelle? Je m'appelle.
Well, I think Je m'appelle is my name is Tiffany.
I see. Okay.
And I think Je suis is I am Tiffany.
Yes, you better know it.
Difference. Yo, I'm probably mad wrong, and I hope somebody comes for me. Like, come for me in all the comments. It's fine. That will only make my French better. Yeah, I'm only gonna be able to spend like a month in France, but I think
only a month. Oh no.
I know. I want to spend a year
and
really get my French up but it's just it's a hard soft language because everything is so soft and just falls off, and English is so hard and everything is just like arch, 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 arch.
Hmm.
And I feel like French is just je, sha, je, vo, zu, la. So I'm just having a hard time with the
That sounded pretty
not
good to
even
me. I don't.
not the speaking, but I
Yeah.
feel like the reading it and
Hmm.
just being able to, like, I feel like once you learn the pronunciation of the combinations, the OUX or the
Hmm.
AIS, and knowing how those are all pronounced and learning the verbs.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna get there, y'all. I'm gonna get there. It might take me a few years, but I'm pretty sure, like Lynn, I would love a home in France one day.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
It's the
Well,
dream.
we are manifesting that for
Yes.
you. I want to pull up
But y'all know I was
too.
excited about chapter 11.
Yes, chapter 11, because it's
Just,
all comps and there's Francis
yes.
involved. These are your vibes, your things. So yeah, let's dive in. Yeah, so in chapter 11, Lynn's kicking off her career as a professional competition climber at the Sport Rocchia comp in Italy. Woo, what a journey. I
Right,
mean,
yeah.
wow. Climbing, I don't know a whole lot about climbing competitions, honestly. I am not a super competitive person myself, and I haven't watched a ton of climbing competitions except in the Olympics. But wow, what a wild, I mean, she's kind of like, climbing competition is just sort of becoming a thing. So she's really like on the cutting edge of it and probably experiencing a lot of, I don't want to say the worst parts of competition climbing, but the ethics and the standards are still being developed. And so
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I think she's kind of like getting, as a trailblazer in this sport, I think she's kind of sort of bushwhacking her way through this sport a little bit. And yeah, she faces a lot of misogyny from event facilitators making super sexist comments, doubting her ability to perform at the same level as men. Her first competition, one of the judges tells her he said she could win a certain prize if she took her
Yeah,
top
yeah,
off.
yeah. He said that the women would be paid an equal prize if they climbed without their tops on.
Gross.
Because she was asking, like, so the men get a car?
Right.
What do the women get? And he was like, uh, what, the women supposed to get something? Y'all just lucky we let y'all out here. Like, what are you talking about?
Whole time though, Lynn is like she's throughout the course of her competition career, she's sending climbs that some of the men aren't
Mm-hmm.
able to finish. Like, so girl, bye.
Yeah.
But
The
um,
80s in climbing competition, I mean, it's obviously vastly different now. I still feel like there's female competitors now that could do routes that the males do. Like
mhm,
it's still super interesting to me of how they separate the two genders as
hmm,
if, there's two, but they separate these two and say, okay, you do that one and you do that one.
mhm,
And I'm like, why? And this
yeah,
is so much more interesting to me because I will say before reading this, and I knew nothing about climbing competition. Well, heck, I didn't know about climbing
hmm,
at all until like 8 years ago.
mhm.
But I didn't know climbing competitions happened on real rock.
Yeah, me
I
either.
have I have only known them to be artificial. Even, now where they build these massive elaborate sport climbing walls
Hmm.
outdoors.
Hmm.
But these folks were on actual routes that existed and decided you're going to do this route and the women are going to do this route
Hmm.
as if it was not possible for the women to do the same routes as men. I still personally don't
Right.
understand why they separate them. I mean, you have people of different heights. Like what physically is so different
Right.
on the wall? Where it's not like when we go climb at the gym, there's the men's climb and the women's boulder. Like
Hmm.
these they aren't segregated.
Hmm.
It's climb whatever you want to climb, and you can. So I still wonder, and I haven't ever talked to anyone. I should ask. I do know
Hmm.
some route setters, but I should ask like why.
Hmm.
I'm obviously there are some differences, I guess, in the female form, but I still don't get
Yeah,
it.
I don't feel like it really translates to climbing in that way though. Like, I feel like there could be actual measures. Like maybe speed. Speed is really like the only thing that I maybe could think of that would be like, and even that, I'm like, that feels kind of arbitrary, but it's like, we can go outside and pick a route to climb, and it could be like 4 people climbing, 2 dudes and 2 women, and all of us can send the same route. Like we're all capable, and we might have to do it different ways or have different styles, to compensate or take advantage of like our strengths and weaknesses. But even in the gym, I mean, literally even in the gym, like I climb the same routes as my male friends and vice versa. Like, so I don't know. It does seem like climbing is definitely one of those sports where gender, height, like there are advantages and disadvantages to both. So yeah, I don't get it either. I think it's a male thing. Just this sort of like obsession with, because men don't like the idea. Let me not. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't. I just feel like, they struggle with the idea of a woman being just as good.
Of equality. Yeah. Of it being the same. Yeah. It's really interesting. And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole because it could get real dark. And this is the happy place. But I do find it interesting, like you said, that this whole like foray into the arena, into competition climbing was very much experimental, and they were making it up as they went along, I feel like. And Lynn coming from this pure free climbing style where it was really about figuring out the route, and now getting into competition where style, you don't get style points, so don't care if you made it look pretty and smooth or clean, and now you have a limit of time to get to the top. And so she lost more points for running out of time than her direct competition, which is really just Catherine was the only person really close to her league. She was falling. She could fall off a route, get back on it, and lose less points than Lynn would for running out of time. And that's still the case. I mean, now you can't fall. I guess maybe that's kind of where that sort of shifted. Like if you fall, that's the end of your attempt.
Right.
You don't get to, regardless of how much time is left, you don't fall, which is really sad. I know you don't watch competition climbing.
Yeah.
But I've watched some lead competitions where route setters are now making like the start like a boulder problem almost.
Whoa.
Like you have to like almost, so you would run and jump into the hold and like try to stick it.
Yeah.
And making it dynamic, and people were falling.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's it. Your comp is done.
Wow.
And honestly, I haven't seen that in a while because I think they realized like maybe we should chill.
That's kind of mean. Yeah.
I mean, they still do lower cruxes, but the whole like run into a move type of thing, I haven't seen a lot of that because that was very devastating to watch a bunch of like people, like in their competition at that point. And so it just felt like they were making stuff up as they went along. And
definitely
the judges, being European, definitely leaned towards the European climbers and was like, we're gonna do and say whatever we want to do.
Yeah, it seemed like there were a lot of bending of the rules to benefit Catherine. But, Lynn is graceful and gracious, and she kind of just rolled with the punches. And in spite of all of that, she won quite a few competitions during this time. She also gets married. So she and Russ get married back in New York around this time. They say their vows while they're hanging off the side of a cliff in the gunks.
Yeah.
She's wearing like a little white catsuit with a veil, and he has on a tuxedo. But yeah, she's still, I mean, I think so there seems to be around this time like So they get married. She continues competing. They are kind of like pursuing their own independent careers. So there is some degree of distance between them, which I think ultimately ends up kind of causing some tension between the two of them. They finally reunite, and she sort of, it seems like, gets into it a little bit with his mom. And so there's a little bit of family drama there. But I think that, yeah, for the time being, they are still together and trying to make things work. Yeah. Where else are we? I mean, I think so. Let's see. That kind of brings us to the middle of the chapter. I feel like there was maybe something else I wanted to say about competing, but I think that this might potentially come in a later chapter. But yeah.
At this point, she was really focused on competition climbing.
Yeah.
And I guess Russ was like a salesperson for some. I don't know if they actually named the outdoor company,
Right.
if it was the North Face or who. I don't know what company he was actually working for. But it was like he was working in sales. And it seemed to me like he in the beginning in 1988, 1989, when they got married, when she was like at the height of her competition climbing and like ranking really high, if not number one, close to it. He was not really a part of that. Like, he was a part of it in the beginning, and then it quickly kind of became, well, that's your thing,
Right.
and then I have my thing. And almost competition climbing seemed to be so different than what they did as partners that I kind of started seeing that shift pretty quickly. Like, when she's in France and Europe competing and he's back in New York, like, their whole relationship was rooted on what they did together on the wall. And now their identities on the wall are starting to change.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So there's a little bit of struggle there. I think the thing that I was also going to bring up is, yeah, I don't know. It's just so wild to me, and we can totally move on from this. But another thing that really struck me was just like, so there was like the Catherine D'Esteville, who I think it seemed like there were two main like European climbers that she had. I'm not gonna say beef with, but like that were like that she was like sort of neck and neck with, and these were kind of like the top female competitive climbers in the world. It was like Lynn, Catherine D'Esteville, and then there was this woman named Isabelle Patissier, I think, or something like that. I think they sort of mentioned her towards the end of the chapter, where they tie for the World Cup, and the judges are like trying to give Lynn a hard time and put her through the ringer to sort of prove that she hasn't taken steroids. She has to go through additional drug testing. I think there were some other kind of like, there's some other scrutiny that they sort of put her through. And Isabel kind of like, you know, had a little bit of a temper tantrum about the whole thing.
Yeah. I was like, oh my goodness, the things I wanted. Yeah.
Have you ever competed? Do you just mainly watch competitions, or have you ever actually been involved in them?
Only in
like local.
Yeah, local community, what they call citizens competitions. I actually have a whole playlist on my YouTube channel of all the competitions I've done.
Ooh.
So
Cute.
yeah, I was hard pre-injury. Like, I loved them. And I actually started Black Girls Boulder because I wanted to get more Black women into competition climbing, because we are so not represented. And I still hope to see one in the 2028 Olympics. Like, fingers crossed. I'm hoping
there was a
that happens.
Okay. Was there a Black woman in the last Olympics?
Just to be more precise, Black American.
Okay.
So,
American.
yes, I am very familiar with all the Black international
Brits
climbers
and whatnot. Yeah, right.
Well,
was she British?
And the French.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's some French brothers as well, but
oh yeah,
there's not. And I've met one of them.
Ooh,
he was super sweet.
which one?
I don't think he really. Mikhail.
Okay, and then what was his brother's name?
It's my
Gosh,
Mikhail,
oh
and
I know one of them has like longer hair.
I follow them because they're the Mowen brothers, but I'm losing his name. So
okay, Mikhail and Bassa.
Yep. And but yeah,
so
as far as
me.
like, yeah, and really sweet.
Yeah.
And he was like a skater boy, so it was so funny. He was rolling around. This was the Salt Lake City competition. He was skating around.
Oh.
But I was too afraid.
So cute.
I wanted a picture with Yanya too, but I was too scared to go up to her. I actually didn't go up to him either. My friend actually went up to him.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not built for that life. I do not fangirl in real life. I do it from afar. But
yeah, it's scary to meet your heroes.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't call them that, but
right?
I do think what they do is incredible, and I love it.
Yeah.
And also though, I do want to say this chapter is when Lynn met her friend Robin. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how to say her last name, Robin Urbansfield. So that same trip to Salt Lake, I saw Robin in the gym.
Whoa.
And you see this woman who, I guess she's in her 60s. I don't know how old she is. Mm-hmm. That woman is built.
Wow.
She is. I don't even know if she's lost. I mean, her fingers. So for those of you who don't know, she's the mother of Brooke Rabbitoux, who's an Olympian and also a very, very skilled competition climber. Mm-hmm. And so, and she trains climbers for a living. She's like got a whole like climbing factory.
Brooke or her mother?
Her mother.
I see.
So they have a gym in I believe Colorado. Not Colorado. Salt Lake, Colorado.
I thought they were from Colorado, or that Brooke was at least. But
yeah, but everybody. So the National Training Center, I believe now is in Salt Lake. So a lot of people have been moving to Salt Lake. So that's why I'm like mixing between. It's one of the two. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so it was kind of interesting because I knew that Robin was a competitive climber just because I know who Brooke is. Mm-hmm. So reading about Robin's comp climbing through someone else it was kind of cool to see how they were kind of like neck and neck on that whole circuit. And I think Robin just continued on the circuit after Lynn was like deuces.
Yeah. It seems like Lynn sort of passed the torch to Robin almost in a way. Like I think they got along really well. They were on the same team. After Lynn's last competition climb, after her last competition in the World Cup, she ended up I don't want to say losing, but I think Robin ended up winning that. Is that correct?
So she won the way the competition season is by points.
Right.
And so I think she won in overall points. I think Lynn won that individual comp, but at the end of the season, it was Robin who took the gold.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it seemed like, I think that it was nice. It was nice reading about their relationship and their friendship and their connection. And it seems like, they were a good team, a good pair. And yeah, when Lynn decided to kind of bow out of comp climbing, Robin sort of graciously kind of stepped in as that girl for the Americans. But yeah, so I guess to kind of tie things up with Lynn and Russ's marriage, they're still married throughout this chapter. They end up attending couples counseling and try to repair their relationship, but they kind of just realize that it's over. And so they end their marriage. Lynn decides to move to France. She buys a home there. She really gets settled into climbing in the community. A lot happened during her first year there. So in addition to kind of like settling into this new place, she loses two really good friends of hers. The first is this guy named Wolfgang Gulick. Well, I don't know actually in which order this happened to, but Wolfgang Gulick, we don't hear too much about him throughout the rest of the book, but this was a good friend of hers that she dedicated a lot of climbs to after hearing about his passing. And then she learns that Yabo died.
Yabo died.
Yeah.
This, first of all, a lot. I didn't realize that. I think this might have been the longest chapter of the book.
It was long. It was long.
A lot happened.
Yeah.
And Yabo's death, the irony is what we talked about Yabo last episode. And what's wild to me is that the way he died is how I was like, oh, I wouldn't be surprised. Like he had all the signs of being capable of doing something like that. Like originally I was like, oh, he's a wildfire. He's, he's a wild child. Yeah. He's going to do something and, risk his life. But then when I saw how he kept threatening Lynn, like, if you don't do this, I'm going to kill myself. I was like, he would really do that. Like, I felt if a lot of people in those situations with that severe of mental health disease, because let's be real, like Yabo suffered
severely
from mental health issues. Yeah. Like, and I think we were even talking about this last time of like, he really needed help. And it's unfortunate that he kind of was getting the help through new relationships. It was like, okay, I'm just going to jump from this relationship to and
which
that
ultimately wasn't help, like no, it was just a crutch, an escape.
It was seriously to his detriment. Like that was wild, because I definitely would have thought it would have been a climbing accident. But then at the same time, seeing and hearing the stories that Lynn encountered, I was like, oh, this is a ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
That was awful. Awful. And that she, like, to witness that, the amount of guilt that someone has to live with for that, like.
Yeah. It was devastating to read about. And I just feel bad, like I feel like bad for the women who kind of had to endure sort of like, being on the receiving end of so much of like his mental health issues. And I feel bad for him because I don't know. I think that like, I don't know. I don't know what mental health resources were really available to people during that time. I'm sure that like therapy was a thing, and I'm sure that psychiatry was a thing, but yeah, I don't know. It doesn't seem like he was even super capable of taking his mental health seriously and doing the things that he needed to do to be what better and to be well. So yeah, it was just all around like a terrible situation. I think that, he ends up like kind of like realizing that it sounds like from the way Lynn described the story, he realized that he could have done serious harm to the person that he was with, and ended up kind of deciding to inflict that on himself instead. And I don't know, it's awful. I don't think there's like a winning situation, but if there is a such thing as like peace, after life, hopefully, he was able to find some peace.
Rest in peace, Yabo.
Yeah. So, but yeah.
And we skipped over something real quick. I just want to circle back, and we can get back to Lynn wrapping up her time in the World Cup. They finally revealed how long Lynn was down for the count after that accident in Buh.
Like in the book?
Yes.
How did I miss that detail?
She had a dislocated elbow, and that was the most severe injury that she had, and she was back climbing.
Oh, in like 3 months.
6 weeks.
Wait, was it actually 6 weeks?
Yes, I wrote it down. That was like because all I wanted to know, because the fact that like, so the injury happened, or the fall happened right when she was about to go into the World Cup circuit. But she didn't miss that season. It's not like she ended up taking the whole season off. She missed like the first maybe 1 or 2 comps, and she was back.
Wow.
6 weeks. Wow. She almost died. Full on 80-foot drop. Yeah. This is wild to me. And I guess I'm just like, what? And so she said it wasn't like her body that needed to be retrained. It was just her mind.
I'm saying, like, for me, that would have taken like longer than 6 weeks. Like the mental
Yeah,
aspect
mentally and
alone.
physically.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So wild. I just had to put that onto the table because I
Yeah.
was like, that is wild. But
Yeah.
yeah, 1992 ended up being the final year
Hmm.
that Lynn competed,
Yeah.
and
And it sounds like she was able to just leave it all out there, put it all on the table, like, and walk away with like a state of peace of like, I appreciate this phase in my life, in my career. I did the best I could. I ended it on a positive note. And
yeah,
I'm happy with my choices. So, yeah, good for her.
yeah. But then it was like, what's next?
What's next? Yeah. So we will get into that. Chapter 12, freeing the nose. So yeah, this chapter is all about just different variations and experiences that she's had climbing the nose in El Capitan. So
Back west.
back
Moving on
west.
back to the West Coast.
Yeah, so I don't know if at this point she had already sold her home or if she was still
Yeah, she didn't move back.
okay.
She just
She was just
it
shuttling
just
back and forth. Yeah.
mm-hmm,
Okay.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you all remember, she climbed the nose on El Cap years ago. I think she mentioned that it was something like 20 years ago with Mari and our
And
friend
Dean.
Dean.
Oh, Dean, the
Dean.
homie.
So she had, that was the first time that she had climbed the nose. But that was done using aid climbing. And so she really wants to try to climb the nose free climbing, freestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And so she makes a couple of attempts to do it. I think she ends up meeting a climber who I believe was from London or Britain, named Simon. And while they're out climbing, they meet each other, they connect. He decides, I really want to do the nose freestyle too. And he ends up delaying his flight. So that gives them a few days to kind of make an attempt on the nose freestyle. They did not complete it, which was a disappointment. I think Simon sounds like he might have been more disappointed than Lynn,
Yeah.
understandably. But I was gonna say understandably because he came from a different country, but Lynn also came from Europe, so I'm sure he could have done it again. But I don't know. I think he was low-key a little bit salty that she might have just been a better climber
Yeah.
than him. um, but
Which she was oftentimes in
yeah.
a lot of cases.
Yeah, it must be tiring to just have to deal with men's egos.
I know.
But anyways, yeah, so she finds there's this pitch called the Great Roof, which it seems like I guess there's a couple of crux pitches, but the Great Roof I think was like the first sort of like crux that they really encountered. And I think this might have been what stopped them this time. I can't quite remember.
There were so many like attempts and different partners. Like
Yeah.
this whole chapter, like so many. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't
She tried
even
a
know
few
how
times.
long this whole thing spanned of making all of these attempts,
Right.
but that was just kind of wild to me. And then she kept moving the goalpost of like, well, I want to do this attempt. Now I want to do it in a day. And it was just like,
Yeah. So eventually she does manage to get it freestyle. I don't remember who her climbing partner was during that. She had quite a few climbing partners, but eventually she does get it freestyle. And I think that took her maybe 3 days to complete. And so she and her partner, his name is Brooks Sandall, in 1993, they completed the first free ascent of the nose. And I want to say that it took them 3 days. I would have to double check, but it took them a few days. It says they spent 3 days just working on one pitch, so that might
yeah,
actually be wrong. I think that they it took them they took a few days to do a pitch, and then I think they bailed and tried again.
and I don't think Brooke did it. He didn't do everything free.
Right.
So yeah, he had a couple sections where he aid climbed. So yeah, he couldn't
Yeah.
quite take that take that shine fully. But I think he was just proud that she did it. And one of the cool things about climbing is that you can be happy for somebody else's success.
Yeah.
That even on the
Totally.
competition level, like it's not like somebody wins and like you watch a basketball game and the players are like, oh man, I lost. So it's very different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Um, yeah, so I they do end up, she does end up making a first for your son. I think you're right in that like when he followed, he used aid, but every pitch that she climbed, she was able to climb free. And there
Hmm.
were quite a few crux pitches. One was the Great Roof. One was changing corners. There might have been another one. The glowering spot, I think, was another crux pitch, but she led all of these pitches and she led them all without aid. So this was a huge accomplishment for her. And then, like you said, she wanted to keep moving the goalpost. She was like, all right, that was cool. But now I want to try to do it in a day. Um, and I can't
And
remember.
make a film.
Right. Okay. I was going to say, I couldn't remember if she tried to do it in a day and then tried to do it in a day making a film or if those were the same attempt.
Yeah, she wanted to film herself doing the nose in 24 hours or less.
Yeah. Um, so that was a thing. And she did accomplish it. She completed it. I think she said in just under 23 hours. So she did end up finishing it, climbing for like almost a day straight. But there were a lot of hiccups with the film. There was a producer from America who was supposed to show up, and
Trash.
yeah, he bailed on her. I think she had to kind of like she doesn't go into a ton of detail, but I think she has. A lot to kind of manage a little bit of drama
They
between.
wasn't ready. Like
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest thing was they didn't want to be that high up. They
Yeah.
wasn't prepared for the
They're like,
exposure.
you want me to repel
Uh
3,000 feet from.
yeah. It was like, did no one know what was going on here? Like we
Yeah.
didn't talk about the actual fact that you are going to have to be hanging off of a wall just as high up as I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So I don't actually know. I don't, I can't quite remember if she says much about how that film itself ended up coming out.
Oh, it didn't. It didn't.
Okay. Yeah.
It didn't. There was no. She. I
Kind of
think
gave
she
up.
realized that the logistics of it. Once she had to become the producer of the film,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to focus so much on the training, the climbing.
Right.
Honestly, there was just no balancing both. You have to have. I mean, when Honnold had his film, he was able to just focus on
Right.
the actual climbing, but he also had a climber as the filmmaker. And I
Yeah.
think when she was doing this and this, I think this was just so far ahead of its time trying to
Mm-hmm.
like film something like this.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of unfortunate because it would be incredible if there was footage of this.
Yeah.
Like this just lives with her memory and what is in this book.
Yeah.
But because as soon as she said something about making a film, I knew off the rip a film didn't happen because I feel like I would have heard about
Yeah.
it. It's like, wait,
Yeah. That would
if
be
I
the
would have,
next thing we review.
yeah, I was like that. I have been trying to watch that doggone Yosemite film and I cannot
Oh,
find.
Valley Uprising?
Yes, I
Oh.
found a link to stream it and nothing happened. So I
What?
do not know
That's
how to watch that movie.
wild. Interesting.
So anybody
Okay.
out there can help a sister out on how to watch that film, please, please. Tiffany at firstoutdoor.co. Please let me
Yeah.
know.
I wonder if yeah, I'll see because I watched it with a friend of mine, and so I wonder if he has it downloaded. And if that's the case, yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's a way that we can share that with you. I think he might have it just saved to his hard drive. But yeah, that would be. We will figure that out. We will get you that, get you that film. That's crazy though, because it seems like, anyways, I do. You are correct. Yeah. So the first attempt of trying to do it in a day, she had the film crew with her. It sounds like it was a disaster, poor Lynn. But she failed. She kept trying the great roof pitch, and she failed. And eventually, she kind of had to call it. And then that's when she tried it again. I think maybe a couple days or weeks later, without a film crew, just by herself, her and her partner, starting at night, and she said she was climbing at a full moon. So yeah, but she was successful. And I think by towards the end of this chapter, she's like, wow, that was cool, that was fun. And it seems like she's kind of like in the middle, like maybe of, I think there's a part of her that's like, I want to keep figuring out like what's next for me. Like, I think there's a part of her that is craving more and more and more, but still very aware that like some of her boundaries are like, she's really not interested in mountaineering. She's not interested in huge alpine style climbing expeditions. And so, yeah, I think she's just trying to figure out what exactly is next for her.
What's next?
What's next? Yeah, she's just like, okay, did that. But
I know. And I loved that she ended the chapter quoting one of my favorite authors. Because I was just like, and honestly, this quote, like, it hits on any level. And I'm big on, all my notes are always quotes. I'm like, oh, that quote is bomb. I need that on a t-shirt. But for those of you who don't know, Ralph Waldo Emerson, author of The Invisible Man, a very, very incredible book. But he said, what lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. And for me, it's like, the past doesn't matter. The future doesn't matter. It's just who we are as people, and what drives us is really all that matters. At least that's how I translated that quote. And her ending that chapter 12 in that way.
Yeah. So yeah, we can move on to chapter 13, the last chapter, full circle.
It's the final chapter. Sorry, y'all. I like karaoke. Holler at me.
So yeah, chapter 13, she's had a ton of accomplishments on the nose. And like you mentioned, I don't know what the span of all of these various attempts were, and like how long it took her to go from climbing the nose in like her first free ascent of the nose in a few days to her first free ascent of the nose in a day. But after she has this like massive accomplishment, she's just like, I don't know what to do with myself. Like, she kind of falls. Yeah, she falls into this depression, which I feel like I've heard quite a few climbers. I mean, it makes sense. It's a thing. But I had a friend who spent, I want to say like 5 years trying to sort of piece together a crack climb boulder, because my friend, they love crack climbing, and I think they projected this thing for 5 years and finally figured it out and sent it. And after that was just like, well, I don't like, that was great, I'm glad that I got it, but also like, I don't know, I can see how like within like the satisfaction that you get from that, there's also this mix of like, I dedicated so much of my time and my life to this thing, and now it is over. So I feel like there's just kind of like this bittersweetness. But she ends up heading back to France, and she spends a lot of time talking about her friend. Maybe you can help me pronounce this. Hugh
Bozy.
Hugh. It's just Hugh?
Yeah.
Hugh.
Yeah, it's Hugh.
Okay. I am making this harder than it needs to be. Because it's spelled Hugues, and
yeah,
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, and again, French people, feel free to correct me. I would say because it's French, I would think it may be Hugh, but it could be Hughes. They could pronounce the S.
Hugh makes sense.
I just would be surprised. So
yeah. Okay. So Hugh Bazil. So she meets a friend named Hugh Bazil. He is a French climber, and they start to get to know each other. And she spends a lot of time talking about him and a lot of his ambitions with rock climbing and with mountaineering. So he's really into this sort of more alpine style mountaineering. He's super young and ambitious and really excited.
Which was triggering for her because of
Yeah,
her original climbing partner and her mentor.
right.
So
Yeah, so she starts to kind of draw some parallels between Hugh and Chuck, her climbing partner, who passed away on the south face, or I don't actually know what face it. I think it was the south face, but of that route at Aconcagua in South America. And Hugh has a lot of ambitions to complete this climb, and we find out that while he is out on this route, he initially was supposed to do it with his climbing mentor and partner, Lucian. Um, and Lucian backed out because the conditions were too dangerous. And so Hugh, just being really excited, stoked, and ambitious, decided that he would lead this route solo against the advice of others. And unfortunately, he met his demise while he was out there. I think Lynn predicts that it might have been just a few hundred yards away from where her close friend Chuck died on that exact same route.
Just wild. And she had the dream.
Yeah.
She had the dream.
Yeah. She had a dream that kind of like that night before. I think she just saw herself like elevated above a mountain and like looking at the snowy peak, and she saw a cross on the mountain. And then it was just like maybe the next day she learned that her friend Hugh had died climbing this route. And she read this book by Reinhold Messner some years later that had a quote that kind of described a lot of the imagery that she saw in the dream that she had before she found out about Hugh's passing. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. There's like a lot of connections that she's kind of drawing there and wondering if like in some way her spirit was able to connect with Hugh's in the final moments before he died. So yeah, I don't know. It's just, that was awful and that was super tragic. It's also just
this was wild for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm reading it and they're talking about Rasta of the Mountains and they're talking about dreadlocks. And I'm like, is he black? To know. Because I'm reading and I'm like, I feel like I would know. And then they have a picture of him in my book on page 252. It varies because of.
Right.
And I was like, are you telling me there was a black French climber in I guess it was like the early 90s. I was like.
And like really experienced and established, like.
And not only that, he was proud of his blackness. Like here's the thing.
He?
So I went down. Yeah, I went down a rabbit hole because I needed to know more. I needed to know who this Hughes person was.
Yeah.
And so I did the thing. I did the Googles. And I found out that he was the son of a black Haitian father. Mind you, I have pretty much only dated Haitian men since I moved to New York. So I was like, yes, let's go. So he was the son of a black Haitian father and a white French mother. But he was proud of his ethnic identity, and he lived a mostly Rastafarian lifestyle.
So he was actually a Rasta.
Yeah. Okay. And he took it even further. He didn't even smoke.
Yeah.
So he didn't drink, he didn't smoke, he lived clean, but he was very big on trying to amplify blackness, and he did that through the routes that he developed. So he developed some routes, and here are the names of some of the routes that he developed. Africa United.
Love that.
Martin Luther King.
Wow.
Rasta Revolution.
Wow.
And Harlem Renaissance.
Oh my God.
Like,
Stop! I'm getting chills right now.
yes, yes. And then he even did a route called C'est Combien.
Come on, accent.
And it's terrible, but it's all I got. But it's supposed to resemble a French question, C'est combien? That is, how hard is it? Making fun of climbers who focused on grades, just for people to notice how more important things were. But he really wanted to, like,
Wow.
yes, if you read, so there, I'm going to actually link the
Please.
article where I got a lot of this information in the show notes, but he was featured in Alpinist magazine.
Wow.
And I think he was featured post-mortem though, but he was featured in Alpinist magazine, and it tells you a lot about like how he was really trying to, it's to me, like, no shade, but like a lot of European climbers now who do have some sort of identity in African ethnicities or culture or blackness, they don't really talk about that. They're not really trying to make it a thing. And I get it, because climbers are like, everybody's welcome, it's climbing. But I think it's cool, not just that he was black, but that he was also trying to amplify that and his presence. And it actually made his like untimely demise so much sadder for me, because I was like, somebody like that. Oh,
Yeah.
It's just interesting.
Yeah, that's crazy. I definitely did not know that much about him. And for as accomplished of a climber as he was, I found it fairly difficult to find like information on him. Like, I don't even know if he has a Wikipedia page, but I struggled to find like a lot of information. So please, thank you for sharing that, and please link any articles that you have, because I would love to learn more. I was stoked when I found out that he was black, and it excited, especially during that time. Like, this is like 70s, 80s, 90s. Like, I feel like I could probably count on my hand how many black climbers there probably were at that time, especially climbing at that level.
And alpinists too. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even think that was a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Very, very few. But to also
Rest
know
in
that he
peace.
like repped it hard, and like was super proud of it. And even like, some tie-ins to American culture, like Harlem Renaissance and Martin Luther King.
Right.
I'm like, that's so dope. Like, that's
I know.
really
I gotta
cool.
find these. I gotta find these routes. I gotta figure out where these climbs are.
Yeah.
I probably can't climb them, but I still want to go to the place.
I know. Yeah. It's like a memorial. But yeah, that's amazing. I don't know. Hearing all of that, I mean, it was tragic to hear, especially kind of like so much of the similarities between his passing and Chuck's passing. And it's also just like, Lynn has gone through a lot of loss. Like, it's like, wow, like, when you're climbing at this level and like you're, and you have friends that are doing like mountaineering and other really risky things. I mean, loss and death is a part of life, but it definitely just seems like people who are really integrated into climbing and are like climbing at like elite levels or doing like really risky, adventurous things, like loss just seems like something that's a more common part of their life. So that's tough. But yeah, later on in the chapter, she joins the North Face climbing team.
1995.
Yeah, she joins the North Face climbing team with Conrad Anker and a bunch of other really well-known figures in climbing. Greg Child, who she also wrote the book with. Kitty Calhoun, that name sounds so familiar.
I know, right? I know. I didn't look her up.
Yeah.
I think I'm not sure if it's a woman, but
I
feel
believe
like
it's a woman. Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
That name sounds
Was
incredibly
this the
familiar.
person who passed away recently? No, she didn't pass. Somebody on the North Face team recently had a tragic
That's terrible.
accident.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
The name is also very familiar too.
Yeah. So yeah, she joins the North Face climbing team, and one of her first big expeditions with them is in Kyrgyzstan, where she does a lot of climbing out in Kyrgyzstan and does some first free gosh, free ascents of some of the routes out there. Um,
And she only agreed to even do this because she was like, "Oh, it's warm. There's not really gonna be like a lot of snow. I'm not, because she obviously has this fear of dealing with Alpine and the deaths of two of her close friends.
yeah. Well, she thought there wasn't going to be any.
So there's snow everywhere, sis. Like you can't. The higher you go, I saw snow. I think I saw snow in Hawaii. I was like, wait, what?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, it's, full value adventure climbing out there. I mean, I think the more dangerous part of, I mean, the climbing, it sounds like the climbing was like not technically that difficult, but it was a lot riskier because I think this area generally was less established. So there were she dealt with a lot of rock fall and like loose rocks when she was climbing up. On the way down, just basically being pelted by rocks. Like,
I would have went home.
Yeah.
Book me a flight, which I get they were dropped off and had to be there
For like a month.
could not. I feel like if she could have left, she would have been like, come pick me up.
Yeah.
I did not sign up for this.
Come get me. Yeah. So yeah, some really crazy stuff, treacherous descents into like these like very rocky gullies, rappelling with like rocks just flying at her face from the top of the cliff. I think at one point she mentions like, I don't even know. I wish I understood better the phenomenon that she was describing, but basically she describes like being on the top of a summit with the rest of her team and like feeling this tingling in her spine. And it sounds like there was like a high risk that, I don't know if it was like lightning. It doesn't sound like it was lightning, but maybe there was just like more friction up there for some reason. And there was a high risk of them being electrocuted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know
I do not know.
that? Okay.
I never heard of that.
Yeah.
I have not. All I know was get me off, get me out, get me out of here.
Yeah.
None of that sounded interesting to me. Get me out of Kurds. Like y'all can have this place.
Right. And her climbing partner's telling her, when the rocks are like flying at them, coming down.
Get used to
you
it.
get used to it.
Bye.
Right. But yeah, she experiences some really, really wild times. But she makes it out of Kazakhstan alive. And it sounds like kind of at this point, that's sort of maybe when she really starts to realize like, I don't know if like this, like she was like, okay, I tried it. I got as close to mountaineering as I'm ever going to get. And I think after this experience, it really affirmed for her that this is not the avenue that she wants to pursue. But a lot of respect for her trying it and for sticking it out for those 30 days. Cause I'm telling you, after the rocks started just like attacking me, I would have been like, okay, I can't go home. I'm gonna just be here for the next like 3 weeks.
Yeah. But that was also the revelation of like her time in Europe was over, and she sold her home in France and dipped out.
She dipped out. She's headed back to. Did she head back to the States at this point?
Yeah,
Okay.
back to the U.S.
Right.
And this is when it gets super depressing because then she outlines all these people who gradually start dying.
Yeah. Yes.
And from climbing.
Yeah. So yeah, more people. Dan, I believe. I don't remember how. Let's see. So I know one of her friends, I think, died in a car accident, maybe, or that might have. She has lost a lot of friends. But Dan ended up dying in an avalanche. So this was somebody who was with her in Kazakhstan, and she kind of notes that he's a daredevil, and
he likes to jump from things. He has this thing where he jumps from stuff to see if the rope will hold.
Oh yeah, what did he call that?
And I think this is what I think. Did he not die from the rope?
You're right.
breaking?
I think you're right. I was thinking of Alex. She had another friend named Alex who also passed away. And I
he
think
did
Alex
these
was on the
stumps, these rope jump stunts
Yeah.
and he would just jump, which is
Right.
crazy to me. I don't even want to fall accidentally
Yeah.
on rope that I know will hold me.
Yeah.
That is wild.
Yeah. Yeah. He did, I've seen this in another, I don't know if I saw this in a film or where exactly I saw it. Maybe it was on YouTube. But yeah, it's sort of like this free jumping. I forget what exactly she phrased it as. But yeah, he would sort of like do, yeah, I guess these rope jumps. And he sort of did these things, and he died while attempting his longest rope jump of 1,000 feet. And he basically tried to set it up so that he dove off the edge of a cliff in Yosemite, and the rope was like set up in such a way that he would basically fall like maybe just a few feet before he reached the ground. And it was about 1,000 feet of free fall, and the rope snapped at the knot, which yeah, is usually the weakest point in the rope. And it snapped at the knot. And I don't know if it got recorded. She said that he recorded a lot of his
It
stunts.
felt like it did. I'll
Yeah.
be honest, it felt like there is footage out there of that, which obviously nobody wants to see.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
mm-mm.
Yeah.
I mean, because that was going to be like a record, so of course he would have been recording it.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, that was pretty awful. And then she mentions another friend who I believe was also with her on her expedition with the North Face, named Alex, who I think was generally a lot more risk averse and was like, very, very experienced, kind of did everything right. But she kind of mentions that, like, he did everything right. He followed the rules. But just the amount of time that he spent out in these extreme environments doing these extreme things, like, it was bound to be that one day he would find himself in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he would meet his demise, and he eventually did. He got buried by an avalanche while he
And
was
he was with
climbing in
Conrad.
Tibet. Yes, that was terrible. Yeah, he was climbing with Conrad Anchor, and it was Conrad, Alex, and a cameraman. And
Hmm.
I mean, God, like, it sounds like if Conrad hadn't made a split second decision to go another way, Conrad would also no longer be with us.
That is wild.
Yeah.
That's wild. I bet that changed a lot for him too, not to get too far off track, but
Yeah.
that is, oof.
It's so crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what relevance this really has, but like, we got the chance to meet him. And yeah, it's just, he seems like a really nice guy. Like, he seems like a great guy, really approachable, kind of quiet, but also seems very kind. And I don't know. It's just, it's like wild. Like, you never know what somebody's story is or what somebody's like been through. Like, and it's like, now I think about it and I read this and I'm like, I mean, yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy to have experienced that. That's crazy to have witnessed that. And yeah, I mean, I guess it's not entirely surprising because, right, like, he is like, this like athlete who does like extreme adventure sports, and I don't know. It's just mind blowing to me to like look somebody in the face who's like experienced these things, like, and like, I don't know why, but my mind is like so blown by just the fact that like he like has endured that, and that's probably one of like many things that he's endured. I don't know. Hopefully he hasn't come this, hasn't had to experience anything this traumatic before or since, but yeah, it's just crazy when you're like at this level, like the kinds of things that I don't know. It's just crazy when you're at this level, the kinds of things that you kind of like encounter, and the losses that you experience. Like, it's really, really wild. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that kind of like sends it off to the end. I think
Yeah.
she ends up going on a all women's climbing trip in Madagascar. And she's out there, and some of the locals see her, and they're like, why would you go up there? Like, we don't understand what this thing it is that you do. What are you doing? And she's like, I just do it for fun. It's like martial arts and meditation. So it's just kind of like a nice, calm way to just almost retire from try hard.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think, yeah, it seems like it's a really innocent question of just like, I have these people in, she was in this time she was in Vietnam. But yeah, she, kind of like, it seems like a really innocent question of these people just being like, we have no experience with this and no exposure to this, and we genuinely just want to know like what you're looking for. And it prompts like a much deeper sort of existential question of like, why do I do this? And she kind of closes up by talking about, just how she does it because it connects her with people. It connects her with nature. It's an opportunity for her to find herself. And I think it was a really nice, beautiful ending and a way to summarize.
Yeah, I'd actually like to read the last paragraph. I think it's always interesting.
Yeah.
Or at least half of the last paragraph of the book, just to kind of close it out. But she says, throughout all of my experiences over the years, the sheer joy of playing on the rocks with my friends has been the underlying inspiration for my love of climbing. What started out as a simple outing on a rocky outcrop in Southern California 26 years ago has become a vehicle for evolving as a person, learning about the world, and sharing those experiences with others.
Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy to think that, I don't know, like she kind of just stumbled upon the sport of rock climbing by chance, and it ended up just becoming her whole life. And almost like, it sounds like it almost was like her destiny, if you believe in those. But I don't know, it's just wild. Like it was a journey. What a life.
Yeah, and I feel like there's so much more that probably wasn't included, and what happens now. Like the books can go on to infinity, especially in the case of memoirs.
Yeah,
but I really enjoyed this, and coming from having read portions of this, and then finally sort of finishing it, and really seeing how she really had to navigate climbing as a woman, it kind of further makes me feel like this was kind of a perfect first book. Even though we're not only reading climbing books in this book club, I thought this was still kind of a really cool jump off, not just to the season, but also to the podcast as a whole.
Yeah. I really enjoyed this book. I definitely feel like super inspired and motivated by her journey. I think I knew a little bit about her, but I did not know just how influential she was, obviously to women in climbing, but just to the sport as a whole. Like she's one of the most accomplished climbers in history. And I think she's done a lot to pave the sport and honestly like make it accessible for, I guess, more like average people like myself, just in the way that she sort of challenged the ethics of it, in the way that she really stood up for the things that she believed in. So yeah, I really appreciated this book. I have so much more appreciation and respect for her and her contributions, and yeah. Climbing free.
And on to the next one. It was great. And I'm excited that, that was the kickoff. But now we move on to the next book. And this was my book. So now I'm passing, the reins off to Melanie to choose the next book. And tell our friends what we're reading next time.
We are reading Written in the Waters. It is a book by Tara Roberts, a National Geographic explorer. She's from Washington, D.C. know, that's my hometown. So yeah, shout out to DC, Chocolate City.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a book about how she starts scuba diving, and she meets a team of divers and researchers and scientists who are studying African American history through diving and exploring slave ships,
sunken
slave ships. Yes. So connecting, outdoor adventure, the sport of diving, with history, American history, Black history, exploration, discovery. That's about as much as I know about it. I started to listen to a podcast, another podcast where she was doing an interview, and I decided to pause because I really wanted to I didn't want to spoil anything. I was already starting to hear too much about her journey, and I really wanted to read it fresh for the first time. But she's dope. She's so cool. Yeah. And I'm super excited to get into this book. I don't remember how I learned about it or how I heard about it, but I just remember finding the idea of exploring and studying Black history through scuba diving and through exploring these sunken slave ships. I don't even know what we're in for, but I'm so excited. So yeah, join us, please.
And this book is kind of broken up into 3 parts, but I think we'll still start out with 3 chapters. So if you are listening to this and you want to kind of read and listen at the same time, definitely check out part 1 and read chapters 1 through 3. Feel like a good amount.
Yay.
So cool. Yeah, we'll do about half of that first section.
Part. Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
So
Yay.
Looking forward to coming back with you all on a brand new book and brand new conversations. We are on TikTok now, for those of who TikTok. So check us out. Books and Boulders on TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm super excited to be wrapping up this book. Super excited to get into the next book. I hope you join us. Grab a copy, get cozy, a glass of tea or wine, whatever your preference, and get cozy and join us in 2 weeks for the first couple of chapters of Written in the Waters by Tara Roberts.
Yeah, support local bookstores, support local small-owned bookstores. If you can find Black-owned bookstores, definitely support. Libraries are also free game. If you can get it from the library, definitely support your local libraries and pick up the book and follow along with us. And you can visit us on our website, firstoutdoor.co/bbpod. All this is linked in the show notes, so definitely make sure you follow along with us, you join our book club, and we just want to keep using this as a way to relax and just try to navigate this lovely world that we live in. So thank y'all for rolling with us. As always, I look forward to chatting with y'all next time.
Awesome. Thanks. Bye.
All right. Bye. Books and Boulders, an adventure podcast produced by First Outdoor Company for climbers, readers, and everyone in between. Subscribe now and join the BB Book Club.